Access to decent housing is a human right. However, for segments of the Zambian population, living in a decent house is still a far-fetched dream. A warm welcome to this week's presentation of Your Platform. My name is Pennipher Nyirenda, your presenter. And today on the program, we'll be looking at the importance of decent housing. We'll be talking to the Habitat for Humanity and other stakeholders linked to this particular subject. Stay tuned to Your Platform. Thank you so much for staying with us on this week's Your Platform program. And indeed, as we did mention at the very beginning of the program, we'll be looking at the importance of decent housing. Today we're coming to you from Kamanga township. In starting our program, we'll be talking to one of the beneficiaries of the Habitat for Humanity project, and this is Esther Lungu. Join me as I talk to her on today's program. Takupokelea kulino program
nayamikira
so tuzen kuno kwa Kamanga mwankala ko zaka zingati
niwela muno makamanga mu 92.
Okay. So mukala na bandani
mukala na mwana wanga na bana tubiri.
Kuti mukwanise mkalidwe muno Lusaka mama kwanza bwanje
nimakwanisa nimaindogulisa tomato ku market kukankhala zuwa nimapanga kona maize block.
Mkalangana mamene tinkalida ise bantu nyumba itandiza mjira banje
nyumba itandiza munjira zambiri chifukwa chakuti ngati nyumba ni ya madoti sometimes mvula ikalokwa ikugwa mwanga mwamene inagwera yanga na mvula manzi yanange na mnyumba mosapita nthawe ya bwera yagwa na kugwa
niliti hapo pamene mnankala na problem
mu February
Wana kutanzila ni wandani pane mnankala na problem
pamene nankala na problem yamene yanganda vananga napo ni wagedroot chirwa ndi vananthandizira kuti ningafuke kona company.
So mungakambepo bwanji kuti mwapeza tandizo yokumangira ni nyumba yenyu wana
neo ningo yamikira kuti bagwira ntchito maningi kunithandiza pamvula yamene inalokwa so ningo ngaziko.
We'll now be talking to another beneficiary of the Habitat for Humanity housing project here in Kamanga compound, and this is Media Lungu. Takupokelea ni kulino program.
Zikomo.
Okay. Mwankalako zaka zingati kuno Kamanga?
Inabajwa mamini mna Kamanga so ngamba 28 years.
Okay. So pa nyumba pano tiuze nkoni pali mungalidu?
Okay, mungalidu madezi ya kumbuya ya sinezo nkala bwino cause munga mwamini mwoni la nyumba. Senzi omanga bwino lenzi zoni kabwela mvula yenze kungena bana siwenze kugona bwino so apa nangala okondwela pa kunyimangira ko nyumba yakuti nikazisungira mu bana bakazingala na moyo wa bwino bana.
Okay, mwina bana bangati? 5. Mai mwezo kwanisa bwanji masiku ya pita?
Nezo kwanisa so chabe.
Ndia bwanji.
Kugulisa ko malasha. Kugulisa ko na ogulila ko bana vakudya na family sometimes kuntandiza ko kairi watate bawo so baba support. Okay.
So munga kambe ko bwanji pali nyumba mini wakumangilani kuno kusaida?
Awe. Nyimvela chabe bwino na kondwela pa unimangila nyumba kuti nsungiremo bana. Cause ndiye future ya bana banga. Olona fine bana banga ndiye bazashiramo benefit muri nyumba. So nankala okondwela pa unimangila nyumba nonga ziko mukuli ba minister na kuli bantu bonse bamene batandiza kuti banimangire na nyumba. Nyumba ni chintu chikulu monga pabana. Chiri bwino lina ndrama wamanga nyumba kuti bana bashirepo benefit. Cause bana bambiri bali ma street kusoba ponkala. Sikuti baje bali ma street walbe ma parents bali nayo. Kamba kakusoba nzeru kwa ma parents bideswa bana pezi kabankala ma street. So ningwashite kwa advise kuti bakankala ndrama is better bamangira nyumba bana bankala na future ya bwino.
No tionga zikomo tumapeza ntao nkala kupa program yatu?
Zikomo, naonga zikomo.
So we've been talking to Media Lungu, who is one of the beneficiaries of the project here in Kamanga compound being facilitated by Habitat for Humanity Zambia, which is a non-profit organization. You're still watching today's program here on your platform where we're looking at the importance of decent housing. We'll be talking to some financial institutions that facilitate, that are part of the facilitators of this project, and much later we'll be talking to the Habitat for Humanity Zambia officials. Stay with us here on your platform. We'll now be talking to Mr. Jonathan Male, who's coming from HLB. Welcome to your platform.
Thank you very much.
As we begin our interview, tell us about HLB. What institution is it?
HLB is a firm of chartered accountants. It's a member of the HLB International, which is an organization of independent auditing firms, which is based in the UK. Yeah. So as HLB, here in Zambia we are called HLB the Lions. Yeah. So that is simply that. That's what we are.
In terms of your partnership with Habitat for Humanity Zambia, when did it begin and how is that turning out for you?
Okay, this partnership has just started. It's the first time we are participating in this venture. So Habitat approached us as HLB to see if we can be part of the bankers build. So we saw it as a very important venture so that we can also participate in our corporate social responsibility to try and help in our small way to provide decent accommodation to the majority of the vulnerable people in Zambia.
In that case, why do you think it is important for us to focus on providing decent housing to the most vulnerable people?
Okay, like we heard when the minister gave his speech, we have a very big shortage of accommodation in Zambia. We're talking about 3.5 million. Yeah. So we thought by coming on board as HLB, we'll be helping to solve this very important problem which our people are facing right now.
But do you think we're doing as much to really change the scenario?
Not really, because if you look at that 3.5 million, it's a lot. So that's why, as this good thing is publicized by Habitat, we hope more corporates will come on board, so that instead of building 2 houses as we are doing today, we should be building maybe 1,000 houses in a month. I think that will be very helpful to the nation.
Some people would take the importance of living in a decent house for granted and probably not even think of actually building something as habitable. In that case, why should someone live in a decent house? Why is it important for us?
It's important in that it's first of all healthy, because without decent accommodation, people will be vulnerable to disease, you know, and you know that the lack of shelter also is associated with poverty. So us who are sitting or staying in a decent accommodation, we take it for granted. Even myself, I've never been to this compound, and what I've seen today, the people needs to be helped. And I think as HLB, we are going to continue with this partnership which we've started today. Yeah.
Your closing words of emphasis as we wrap up on this discussion focusing on decent housing.
I would like to urge other corporates to really come on board. Corporates and individuals to come and help out with the Habitat, to come up and help build 1 or 2 houses. I think it will be helping a person. Even if we help one family at a go, I think it's a step in the right direction.
I'd like to thank you very much for being part of your platform.
Thank you very much and welcome.
Tell us about Investors Bank, and then we'll go on to talk about the reason why we are hosting today's program.
Well, basically, as you possibly are aware, Investors Bank is a locally owned bank listed on the Lusaka Stock Exchange and started operating in Zambia in 1994. So as we go into next year, actually, we'll be celebrating 20 years of operation in Zambia.
As a local bank, and looking at our main focus of today's program, which is housing, why is it important for you as a financial institution to also look at probably financing people that are in the process of, you know, investing in infrastructure such as housing?
Well, what we're doing here today is under our corporate social responsibility program. As you are aware, Habitat for Humanity Zambia has been doing this program for a number of years, and as probably you are also aware, there is a deficit of housing in Zambia of about 3.5 million. So as a bank that is operating within the community, we felt when Habitat for Humanity came to us, we felt we should also make a contribution under the CSR, not from the business perspective, but under corporate social responsibility. That's why you find that we are present at this event.
In that context, and probably just for the sake of emphasis, why is decent housing important?
Well, it's appropriate because obviously when you're coming from a decent home, you're going to do decent things wherever you're going. So you can imagine someone coming from a ramshackle, they won't be able to perform to expectation. And also, you've looked around and seen the mud houses that are in Kamanga compound. What happens in the rainy season is that water seeps into the houses, and the children that are sleeping in these houses are susceptible to various infections and diseases. So when you give decent housing, you are in other words helping to fight disease and alleviate poverty across the board.
I also just bring in the element of access to finance for building decent housing. As a bank, do you have any particular interest in promoting this kind of investment?
Yes, we do have an interest. We actually have a subsidiary company, Zambia Home Loans, which actually is under our auspices. They actually give very flexible loans to people that would like to go into construction of houses and etc.
We'd like to thank you very much for being part of our program today.
We are very happy to be here. I must also just mention, I don't know if you are able to zoom in, our managing director is actually very active, and he has been laying bricks. So I brought over a team of my people from the bank who have participated in this exercise, and we are happy to be here, and would like to just make an appeal on behalf of Habitat for Humanity for other organizations to come in and help, because truly this housing issue is a big problem for the country.
Thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank you so much for staying with us on this week's Your Platform program, where we're looking at the importance of decent housing and particularly looking at the construction of decent houses for 2 beneficiaries in Kamanga township. And joining me on the program at this point is the National Director for Habitat for Humanity Zambia, and this is Mr. Kanyata Mkelewai. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
As we begin the program, or particularly this interview, tell us about the Habitat for Humanity Zambia and what kind of organization is it?
Yeah, thank you so much. You mentioned 2 words, decent housing. 2 simple words, but that are so difficult to attain for many of our people. Habitat for Humanity is founded on the belief that each person has a right to decent shelter and to live in dignity and hope. Historically, just a brief history, Habitat for Humanity came to Zambia in 1984 at the invitation of the then Republican President Kenneth Kaunda, who today is still the patron of the organization. Since then, we have been working in different communities that in Zambia we generally call slums, to improve housing for our people. As you know that moving from the 70s coming now, there's been a lot of rural-urban drift, and that this has put a lot of pressure on our towns, where people are building around the cities in very, very high density areas, like where we are today in Kamanga. So what we have done today is what we call a bankers build, where we have provided an opportunity for local institutions to participate to build a home for somebody who is really in need. We started this initiative last year, and this is the second one that we are having. So far, a number of banks have responded. And we are hoping that as we move forward, more and more banks will come forward. Now, the idea here is that Zambians will not only contribute money, but they will also physically participate. So these banks today that you have seen here, they come out with their staff to actually come and make their hands dirty, to interact with the people here in Kamanga, to interact with the lady that we have just, for whom we have just constructed a house called Esther Lungu, to give her that hope. That is what is important, that things can change. So we believe that if more and more Zambians can volunteer their time, their labor, and their money, we can make a real difference to improve the living conditions of our people.
You did mention the high rate of the rural drift that we have witnessed over the last 2 decades. In outlining or really emphasizing that particular problem, how widespread is this same challenge of indecent housing for the Zambian people?
If you look at Zambia, for example, many people are building houses, but those who are actually building decent shelter are just 20%, the 20% of the population. The 80% cannot afford. If you want to buy a house in Lusaka, a decent house, it would not cost you less than 150,000 kwacha going upwards. How many people can afford that? You see around Lusaka people living in plastic houses, which they call shelter. People living in mud structures that are built all over. this poses as well a danger in terms of the health of our people. It puts a lot of pressure on the health system as well, because when children live in homes that we see in some of these compounds, the rate of infections, upper respiratory infections, pneumonia, malaria, and so forth, dysentery as a result of lack of water and poor sanitation, they go up. And so we believe that as Habitat, by constructing houses like these, we are providing a solution that will improve so many in terms of the social living conditions of our people. So the need is there. We are talking about by 2030, we're talking about a shortage of 3 million houses in Zambia. That is huge. That is critical. And if we don't come together as Zambians, politicians, financial institutions, private individuals, if we don't come together to do something about it, we are sitting on a ticking time bomb.
You've talked about the partnership with the banks, but ultimately all these other years that you've been in operation, how do you manage to meet such a costly obligation, which you've just really deliberately decided to do to help people who are vulnerable?
That's a great question. I think over the years we have had reliance on donor funding, outside donors. But increasingly, many countries around the world, even those that are prosperous, they are going through different economic downturns. We saw this even in the United States not long ago. You may wish to know that even in the United States, there are 48 million people without decent housing. 48 million people is just like the population of South Africa. You can imagine, without decent housing. So we see also donor fatigue. And as such, we have come up with creative ways of raising funds locally. Zambians are not too poor to give. There's something that they can give and that they can contribute. So it's from that premise that we're approaching this, encouraging Zambians to give for the cause of Zambians.
But how is the response?
So far from the banks, it has been good. And last year we had about 4 banks. Today we have 6 banks participating, so we can see this growing. We can see this enthusiasm coming. By the way, currently we even have schools participating. For example, I want to mention the Lusaka International Community School, LICS, the American International School of Lusaka. You find children coming together to actually put money together to try and help somebody who needs decent shelter. So maybe in future we can have schools built, maybe we can have ZNBC built. So we are inviting really different organizations to come together towards this cause.
We'll probably conclude there, and as we do, any points of emphasis?
I think my point of emphasis will be voluntarism. If as Zambians we can volunteer to help another person in need, we can do more. Voluntarism does not require a lot of money, it just requires a will to help. And as Zambians, we cannot lose that spirit of voluntarism. In South Africa and in Africa, we are calling it Ubuntu. Let us not lose that aspect of Ubuntu, because we need to help one another. If we put our heads together, we put our resources together, we can help, we can touch a life and change a life, particularly the lives of our children in this country.
We'd like to thank you very much for being part of our program.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
We've been talking to Mr. Kanyatam Kelewai, who's the National Director for Habitat for Humanity Zambia, just here on today's presentation of your platform. Stay tuned. This is your platform where we're coming to you from Kamanga compound within Lusaka, and of course today on the program we're looking at the significance of decent housing. And joining me on the program at this particular point is the board chairperson for Habitat for Humanity Zambia, and this is Mr. Douglas Katengo. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me. Good afternoon, everyone.
Well, today on the program we're looking at the importance of decent housing. Maybe we can start our conversation from that perspective. Why is decent housing important?
Housing is a basic need for everyone in society, and as such, when you have a decent house, it promotes human dignity and gives people hope and a place to always look to go back to.
How does that fit into social and economic development?
So when you have a decent house, you know that when you wake up in the morning going to work, your children are, you know that you're coming back in the evening to a safe place, and your children have somewhere decent to work. So as a result, your productivity, even in a workplace as an employee at a company, is better because you have a peace of mind, knowing very well that you have a safe place to go back to in the evening, and your family is in a safe environment.
But how are we performing as a country in ensuring that a number of, or at least the majority of the citizens have access to decent housing?
We are not doing very well in that aspect, and as Habitat for Humanity, we've been strong advocates to government who we keep engaging time and again to look into social housing. The aspect of social housing cannot be done by government alone, and Habitat is a partner. There are many other organizations that are doing that, but this can be done much better if government as well as society brought about deliberate policies that incentivizes those who are able. By incentivizing, it encourages those who are able to do this community housing much better.
Okay. But have you had any working partnership, for instance, with the Ministry of Local Government and Housing, because they are the line ministry dealing with this issue, in ensuring that we don't just have policies that of course champion decent housing, but we do have decent houses for the people?
We do have partnerships with them, but only at a very policy and I'd much say a theoretical level. We are looking for much more meaningful policies where we go out and work with government to do social housing like they've done in South Africa. We may not have as much resource as they have, but they have started the first step by government engaging directly into promoting social housing. And as Habitat, we are available to work with them. Like Habitat SA is able to work, we are available to do that and promote that. So we are engaging. We happen to be lucky that on our board we have an officer from Ministry of Local Government who guides us, and he creates that open door for us to discuss it, and we see hope that this will be able to move it much better next time.
Okay. terms of financing, how are you managing as an institution? Because building infrastructure is not a cheap agenda.
We have various modes of financing. Firstly, like today's, we've gotten our finances to build these houses from the corporate sector. We do have also other money that comes from houses that were built on a micro loan scheme, and those people pay back monthly, and we put that money in a revolving fund and build new houses every year. And then we do also get international support. Besides the local support that we get from the bank and the corporate, we get international support from Habitat for Humanity International. We get support from the Irish Aid on a program that's been running for the last 3 years. So we have various partnerships that we are utilizing, but our intention is at the moment we've been dependent, especially our administrative running is done from our international support. We want to, as a board, our strategy is to move away from dependency on international support and raise all the resources internally, or rather locally, so that we're able to support our programs. At the moment we have probably something like a 20-80 resource mobilization in terms of local support, but we want to turn that around in the next couple of years, that we have more resources generated locally than we have externally. Yeah.
I'm keen to ask you on the subject of the Sustainable Development Goals, which are a revision of the Millennium Development Goals, which also emphasize, the importance of elements such as decent housing as a right for our people. Basically, as we are going to probably conclude this interview, why then should Zambia, be a part of international treaties that focus on, rights of the people, and particularly for the point of emphasis of emphasizing the importance of decent housing as we conclude?
Housing as a human right does not only promote decency and integrity of the family, but it promotes a sense of security, it promotes the health, and it promotes aspects of, you heard the story, I gave him a speech, of education. If you don't have a decent place for a child to come back to read, education is affected. If you don't have a decent place for a father to come back to work, he's affected in his workplace. So productivity is affected. If you don't have a decent house where people can be separated if they're unwell, health is affected because contagious diseases are at large. So you find that it is very cardinal that we promote sustainable, decent housing for the good of the community as a whole, because it will support in turn all these other goals that we intend to achieve through the Millennium Development Goals. Thank you.
Any last words?
My last words will be to appeal to the community at large, especially the corporate world, as well as the people within the communities we build, like here. Most of the time we walk into the communities to build houses and we are seen as strangers and outsiders, with the local neighbor not being able to participate. But we want, not only for Habitat, but for everything that we do in a community, let's go there and be there to help our neighbor. This is a spirit of Ubuntu that we think should be encouraged, and not to see each other as outsiders. Like the neighbor thinks, oh, my friend is getting a house and I can't help them. They should be part and parcel of the development of their neighborhood, because next time it will be them, and this neighbor we are building for will be able to help. So I appeal to the community at large to join Habitat and many other organizations that are helping in one way or the other to promote better and decent housing, as well as other means of decent living in our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again for your time.
Thank you for having me. Good day.
We've been talking to Mr. Douglas Katengo, who is the National Board Chairperson for Habitat for Humanity Zambia. And of course, on today's program, we've been looking at the importance of decent housing, with particular focus on a housing project in Kamanga compound. Well, here is where we conclude this week's program. We'd like to thank you very much for making time to watch this week's presentation. My name is Pennipher Nyirenda, saying goodbye and God bless you. And we do encourage you to join us next week with another interesting program.